Okay, welcome to Three Dudes in a Dock. We're joined by Mr. Trump there, apparently. For those not watching on video, Mitch has a weird-looking Trump head. Yeah,
Sticky Trump ball. Yeah,
Trump
this
ball.
is the thing. This is the thing that I mentioned to you the other day that I was
Okay,
going to give you, Tyler, to add to our collection. So it'll be the Three Amigos.
yeah, that's such a
Yeah,
weird,
but it's
such a
like,
weird-looking item.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
I gave one to Christian, and like, at the people watching the video, you could see the two shelves in between, like behind Christian, and he put it in between there, and it like goes down, like it makes the weirdest noise. It's pretty awesome. It's unexpectedly great.
Like
You're-
take your cheeks and your fingers, pinch
Yeah.
them, and then like flop them back and forth. That's exactly what it sounds like. It's just like when Trump gives a speech.
Yeah.
Very odd.
Awesome.
Very odd.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, have you guys watched any new docs lately?
I have not. I've been going back and watching Sons of Anarchy. Well, I guess this is the first time I've watched it. So we are rewatching it. Or she is.
Cool.
I'm just watching it.
Cool, man. Cool.
Yeah. So that's
Pretty
taking up.
interesting
Yeah,
show.
it's taken up quite a bit of my time.
Yeah, it's a long show. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're only in season 2, almost to season 3, I believe. So
Damn.
yeah.
Didn't you just start watching Game of Thrones too, Christian? You're on season 2.
Yeah,
so
I did.
I'm gonna lose you. I'm gonna lose you guys for a while. So
Yeah, I'm really liking it.
like, yeah, that's cool.
Just
yeah,
wait.
Haley and I watched it.
Just
Oh,
wait to
sorry.
have your heart crushed, Christian. Crushed.
Yeah, it's been kicked around a bit already.
Well, you'll get upset.
Yeah, you have a ways to go.
I actually, I have watched the last episode of Wild Wild Country now. I finally finished it.
Oh, nice.
Sweet. Cool.
It was kind of sad, admittedly. Not because of like the death of the Bhagwan, but just because those people never really got like a fair shot.
No.
Just like religious conservatism in America crushed it before it even got off the ground. I mean, they went about it a weird way, but it is kind of sad to see people technically doing a good thing, but they were just instigated into being predators, and then they were crucified for it. But yeah, some fucking crazy shit. I did not expect one of the women who was directly linked with some violence on behalf of Rajneeshpuram to be in jail, kind of like she was awaiting genuine trial, and then for her to be totally acquitted and given a sentence of time served based on that her son was diagnosed with a brain tumor and she was just alone, and as was her son. So the judge had some sympathy, and that was crazy. I did not see that coming. It's nice to see a little humanity in a crazy story like this, a wild story.
Well,
yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
Speaking of humanity, that's a great segue to our doc this week, because there is a complete lack of humanity. We watched Taxi to the Dark Side by Alex Gibney. So yeah, Mitch, if you want to kind of give the listeners a rundown of what it's about.
Well, it's about this Afghani guy who lived in like a kind of remote mountainous region, which from what I understand is most of Afghanistan. And his family were peanut farmers, and he was a young guy. I don't think they ever really say his age, but they just mentioned that he was a younger guy. And they mentioned that he wanted to drive a taxi. So his family was cool with it. And he was like, yeah, I'll drive the taxi and then I'll bring the meat and potatoes home at night. So they were like, yeah, that's cool. And then he took a ride he picked up 3 guys one night and then just never came home. And he ended up in this prison, kind of like makeshift prison that the Americans built in Afghanistan, which I forget the name of it. I was just thinking Bagram, that's right. Yeah, so it was kind of like an Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo, which like I feel like those are pretty powerful names. Like when you say that, it's like, oh yeah, that was crazy shit, right? Because like there's that other documentary that's very much like this, that Standard Operating Procedure, which they kind of talk about in this with the whole Guantanamo Bay thing, of just how the prisoners were taking pictures and stuff. So yeah, this guy was in this prison, and then he ends up getting killed or dying with like how long? A couple of days. Like he wasn't that long.
Oh yeah, he wasn't there very long, I don't think.
Yeah, and then the official release was like, oh, he died of natural causes. And then it was just a weird story to people, and then certain people started looking into it, and it was actually reported to be a homicide, and the U.S. military gave the family the death certificate, but they couldn't speak English, and it was in English. And then they have an English reporter found out about the story and went to the family and like really explained that their son or like their family member was actually killed by the U.S. military. So it was a way bigger issue, but it opened up like a giant can of worms because the press found out about it, and then they were questioning people like higher ups, like Donald Rumsfeld, who he had to kind of cleverly dance around them, like, well, why do you do these torture techniques? Or like, I think there was a press conference where they might have named the guy who died. I don't know I feel like they did, and we're like, do you know anything about this? And he was kind of like, no, I don't really know. So yeah, so it's pretty wild. And how like no one really got in trouble for it, and the people that did get in trouble were in positions where there were like privates and like military police at this prison that would have gotten shit if they didn't do what they were told. So it's kind of crazy that how like none of us are in the military, but I feel like we all know that a guy with 4 stars, if you're a private and he tells you to do something, you're not going to be like, I don't know if this is morally right. And like, especially in a time of war. So, I mean, there's countless stories of that shit, right? Like just you're in the middle of war and shit's going down, and then you do some like not humane things. And then it was like, well, why the fuck did you do that? And then like, well, the guys above me were in a way saying to do this. So, and like, we're in war. So it's the whole thing is like so crazy because it's kind of like, it's kind of, I don't know if funny is the right word, but I guess fuck it. It's funny that there's rules to war. Or like, is that whole, like, it's kind of crazy.
That was kind of one glaring thing for me. This whole watch was what they're arguing about is made up. That it might be hard to wrap our head around, but laws anywhere are completely agreed upon between a group of people or between a really small group of people organizing or gaining authority over a larger group of people, like democracy or fascist. And that when faced with a difficult situation based on construction between 2 different laws or between someone interpreting a law that, again, is made up a particular way that violates some instinct in us, we are perplexed and we don't know what to do. And we say, oh, well, it's the law. I don't know. This is just how it is. What the fuck is wrong with you? It's made up. Just change it. Decide that it's wrong and stop it. And if it doesn't stop, I don't know. It's like just get harsher from there, escalate. But the fact that they argue over all this shit is just a really clear indicator that they don't actually care, or they don't actually know what the problem is. And it's probably the latter. They just don't realize that these are people, and you should respect that. But that's classic America.
I just don't think it was George Bush too. So if he doesn't care what Kanye said, he probably doesn't really care about that. But what you were saying about changing the law, like there's that press conference with Bush when he's like, I don't like, and he says like pretty much verbatim what the legal wording is, but he's like, it's so vague. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, dude, don't like you and your dudes, can't you guys change that to be like, this is for sure what this means? And like, we can clear up a lot of legal things, but he's like, I don't know. She's just wide open. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. That was striking.
Yeah.
But see, this is all against the law according to the Geneva Convention signed after World War II or Vietnam, right?
I think it might have been like the First World War.
I think, yeah, maybe. So I mean, the United Nations has laid torture and inhumane treatment of prisoners of war, made it illegal, but kind of the U.S. or whoever keeps doing it just really doesn't give a shit. They want to extract information any way they can, and they do.
Yeah. I'm just looking up the Geneva Convention here. I said convention really weird. It was signed in a year that I would have not thought. I thought it would have been like right after the First World War, but it was 1929.
Okay, so yeah.
Oh, that's quite a bit after.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's like, dude, think about it though. That's like everyone's getting ready to play the game of life in Europe with like armies getting together, and they got to be like, hey guys, we got to have a rule book first. Because the first time we did this, we were throwing gas, we were doing crazy shit. So maybe let's have some rules that will kind of, sort of go by.
Yeah, so like the Geneva Convention, the Geneva Convention, I think, has made using biological weapons illegal as well.
Yeah, and like gas and certain shit. Yeah,
which is funny because I mean, at the current time, right now, the U.S. is launching tear gas and gassing its own citizens, basically, which is in contravention of the I can't even talk. Geneva Convention.
I'm sure there's someone somewhere that's like, hey, at least it's not napalm, so like, calm down.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But yeah, like this documentary, like it touches on obviously a super important subject. Like, after 9/11, the world kind of changed for the worse. Most people, I think, would agree.
What happened? The architectural failure.
And so like for all this to be come out in the open when it did, and showing the inhumanities that were launched upon these people in these prisons is insane.
It's also insane that it's pretty much still going on.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, holy fuck, like it's the longest war that they've ever been involved in. So like they're still there. So you don't think that there's places like this place, they just were like, maybe let's go underground, or like we just don't fucking take pictures anymore.
Right.
Like there's no way they're like, oh, you guys caught us. Sorry, we're never going to do that again. I'm like, well, we just got to get better at this.
Yeah.
It was also kind of
super surprising. All the pictures.
Yeah.
And all the thumbs up. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy too how like it's interesting that how the CIA and the FBI and like different branches of the government like really fucking hate each other, and how the FBI was in there first, and then they were like, all right, we're going to do this by the book because like that's legally what we have to do. And then higher ups are like, you guys aren't getting the job done. Like, let's bring in some sketchy CIA dudes, and they're gonna like fuck some shit up. And then like we don't like CIA was like, we don't give a shit about legal. Like, who cares? We got our own legal book. So like that's crazy that it wasn't like why wasn't the FBI involved with it? And then they were like, all right, we can't do this way, so let's change the policy. Now like let's just get a crazier team in here. They're gonna kill everybody. Like that.
There was kind of a war over. Like this was happening
absolutely
the year after the great catastrophe to ever hit modern America.
Yeah, I guess that would have been like after Pearl Harbor, and be like, all right, be nice to Japan, guys. Like we gotta be civil. Yeah,
that's a good parallel.
But it's a good point to point out that I don't think any of the people on the flights that caused 9/11 were Afghani. I believe mostly Saudi.
No, I don't think they were.
Yeah, so. But that's.
I think it was more just like they had a map of the Middle East, and then like a bunch of them were throwing darts, and then like looks like 3 out of the 4 hit Afghanistan. I guess we're going there, guys.
But that's just it. Like, you know, the U.S. military and basically the American people were led to believe that, you know, Muslim people are the enemy. They're to be dealt with. They're savages. Let's do what we can. Whatever we can to figure this out.
It was just like modern national bullying. Yeah. They really didn't have any beef with those people.
This was like some Vietnam shit, man. Because like at pre-Vietnam, Americans were like, "There's no way that, like the government doesn't lie to me. Like they don't lie about things like this. So like they don't lie." And then like things unfold where like a president gets mysteriously killed, and then like they're just repeatedly lied to in Vietnam, and then like they're protesting, and like Kent State where like National Guard just has live bullets on students. So that was a lot of Americans were like, wait a second, these dudes who say they're doing the right thing, like I don't know if they are. So it's pretty wild how that happened then, and it happened again, and is like continuing to happen.
I think,
but with the war fervor thing, like the Patriot Act, like they passed so much shit in that where it was like, oh man, like we're good now, guys.
I think the most alarming stat was that they've, arrested and detained 83,000 people and not one single trial. Like,
yeah,
that's a lot of fucking interrogation.
Hey, that's because we couldn't get any judges to go to the Middle East. Okay, we tried, but they wouldn't go.
But yeah, that's a lot of people interrogated with what I assume is no relevant information gathered from it.
But like they say in this, that like if you want a terrorist going in, you sure as hell were after.
That's right.
Like I'm sure 100, not even like a couple of kilometers down the road, there's probably like Taliban checkpoint where they're like, you just come from there? Here, bro, here's a gun. Come with us. And they're like, yeah, for sure. I'm definitely doing this. So it's just creating more of a problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. It just breeds more hate against the West. And
yeah, man.
You know, let's say your buddy gets taken in, and all of a sudden, you know, it doesn't even have to happen to you. He gets taken in and either killed or just tortured and let go, and comes back and tells a story, or doesn't come back. Well, all of a sudden you're like, oh, fuck the U.S. Like, I'm pissed. My whole family's pissed. That you're exponentially creating people who hate you.
Yeah. And then the U.S. is like, oh, you're a terrorist. So now we can like legally do whatever. Like the rules of war don't apply with you. So like, we'll fucking light your whole goddamn family up.
Well, so
that was some interesting logical gymnastics that they pulled to get that result too. That was super fucking disturbing. That they all believed it.
Yeah.
Like, so an analogy is like me. I'm gonna put a vendetta against all blonde-haired people, and I'm gonna walk down the street, and every blonde-haired person I see, I'm gonna just punch right in the face. Well, that once people get wind of that, that blonde person's gonna say to the next one, "Hey, watch out for this guy. He's gonna punch you in the face if he sees you." And that person's gonna hate me, and the word's going to spread,
Yeah.
and everyone's going to be like, fuck this guy. Like, we need to deal with him.
Yeah. No. It's yeah. The thing is, it's fucked, man. Like, global politics seem confusing, but they really don't really seem that confusing. Because it's just like a bull in a china shop mostly, and it's just like we're wrecking everything, and like it goes the American way, or like whatever, like the bully way, or it doesn't go any other way. So that's what we're doing.
Right.
You know, it's crazy. And then that bully, if you are one of those small countries that is like, no, fuck you, they're like, oh, you're a terrorist state, or like, you're not with us, so fuck you. And they're like, oh man, or they put sanctions against you, so like any of the countries that like they have dealings with, it's harder for you to deal with. And then like it's crazy, man. The whole thing's fucked.
So to me, like one of the most, I guess it's a history buffs kind of wet dream, but like it's crazy how powerful America got in such a short time.
Well,
like,
man, I've heard a really cool argument that it's better for global politics and like humanity as a whole to have like a state like Soviet Russia and the US, because they both keep each other in check. That like they're not gonna get really too crazy. But I'm like the Red Scare and shit. Of like there's always like weird fear. But it's like you could just do it in a way where like America's not just gonna trample everything. Like there's another country there to be like, whoa, hold the fuck on. Like you guys can't do that.
Right. But to go from a bunch of people who left the country because they felt like they were being persecuted to come over to this new land and just fucking like dominate the world stage, like that, like
yeah. I had this conversation with Christian the other day that I was like, it's crazy watching, like, I think it's the untold history of the United States. Oliver Stone did, but like pre the First World War and like going into the Second World War, the U.S. was like, we don't get involved in other nations' politics. Like we are for freedom because like you said, like we came from this place and like we told them to go fuck themselves and we made this cool democracy. So like we do not get involved with foreign shit at all. And then global things happen, and then like the British Empire falls somewhat of like them controlling a lot of shit, and a lot of old European powers fall. So the US is like, oh well, obviously we're gonna go to Guam and we're gonna have a military base there, or like just all this shit that it was like, well, someone had to take it, so we did, and now we're there. Like it'd be interesting, like history buff thing, to take a politician pre-First World War, like an American politician, and say like, this is what your country did. They'd just be like, he'd probably cry. They'd just be like, man, they went against a lot of shit that they said they weren't gonna do.
That's right.
It seems really capitalistic the way that these guys did their jobs in that sort of like atmosphere that you just described is what produced these people, of course, because they're just the Americans that are alive right now. They're clearly descendants from earlier Americans. I mean, not directly, but it's a pretty fucking good chance. And they just seem to enjoy themselves so much at what they do, and they want to capitalize on that. Like they want to get better at what they do for some kind of perceived end goal, which I think for these guys was like military accolades, hearts and stars and shit. Some of these people actually did receive stars. I think Carolyn Woods, one of the lieutenants who was commanding Damien Castelletti, I can't remember his last name.
Yeah.
That was his commander. She received a Bronze Star afterwards and then promptly moved on to a different military organization or unit. But these people were awarded for meritorious employment, and that's really weird because they were under fire and being court-martialed for their actions, but yet at the time they were rewarded. But they're rewarded for beating and torturing and killing people who are innocent to begin with and who weren't given a trial to discover such.
But
It's
see,
like the Boy Scouts. She got a badge for torturing. Okay.
Yeah, it's like that's what indoctrinates these people into wanting to be good for their leader.
This
It's
star
like
is when I shot a baby, and this star is when I killed a whole family. This one
Yeah.
really gets me. This one shot a dog. That one gets me.
and see, and that's the thing, like Woods and I think everyone above her like got off scot free, and basically they just used all like the grunts as scapegoats.
The private.
Like,
Yeah.
those
Man,
are
the
the
one
ones.
guy. Oh, sorry, Tyler.
No, I was saying those are the ones that ended up, getting booted out and having their lives ruined. As they should be. You still have to have some kind of moral compass, whether you're a soldier following orders or not. And you have to know when to say, "Hey, look, I don't think we should be doing this," or at the very least, taking pictures and looking happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine there was one guy who was just like kind of crying or like looked like he's like pissed. And they're like, yeah, that's the pussy of the group. Or like, Jesus Christ. Man, the one guy who had the shaved head, he was kind of my favorite interrogator because he's like, man, I'd go in there and just start reading the back of catalogs and be like, God damn it, this is why there's fucking cornstarch in my cereal. Or like talking about just mundane shit. Like, I forget another thing that he said. Why? Like, is Elvis the king of rock and roll? And how he'd write it in his reports. And, like, I don't think he ever really got in trouble. So, like, they clearly weren't reading the reports. Or they weren't just loving it. That they're like, oh, man, they're just, like, that's so fucked up.
Yeah.
It's just that sustaining abuse. Like, you don't have to do anything because I don't think this guy would have spoken a ton of English. So you just yell, just raise your voice. And this guy's obviously not super creative, clearly, because that's his day job. And he goes to work 16 hours a day. This is like a direct quote. And like, he works really hard. So he doesn't really have time to do other things like read his employment handbook. He's so busy beating the shit out of people.
He's not improving his anger. Like, he just looks around the room and like, man, or like his like just goes in there to like vent about his wife. So he's like, it's very therapeutic for me. Like, I feel like we get a lot done, and the guy's just shaking in the corner, like psychologically destroyed. Yeah, man, the footage of the dude smashing his head against the metal wall, and then like just the blood running down. They're like, holy fuck.
So, did you guys watch Into the Credits and see Alex Gibney's father?
No.
So, yeah. So, like 30 seconds or a minute into the credits, like at the very end of the movie, Alex Gibney puts this movie's dedicated to my father, who was a World War II and Vietnam vet, and he was a Navy interrogator, and so then it shows like an interview with him, and he talks about like seeing this, and like I think he passed away in 2006. All this would have came to light when he was still alive, and he said, it's made me lose faith in America. Like, so,
yeah, man, like
coming
that
from
guy, like when that guy was in his 20s, he's like, we're doing a good thing, like we're like the Second World War, like we're defeating this global evil, and like and Vietnam maybe not so much, but whatever, we'll skip over that one.
And now they're defeating taxi drivers.
Yeah. He's just like, fuck, man. Like, it's just nuts that there's like a lot of documentaries like this, like the Standard Operating Procedure, and like I'm blanking on the other ones, but there's all kinds of just there was this family, and then they came in, and the Americans just took all the men, and now there's no more men in this town because they were obviously all terrorists.
So kind of
holy fuck,
a funny little I guess it's not really a stat, but so basically this movie won an Oscar. It won the Oscar for Best Documentary Feature.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then in June of 2007, the Discovery Channel bought the rights to broadcast this documentary, but then said their intention is to never air it because it's too controversial.
What?
Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
So then,
okay, well, like that's
and then
Yeah, sorry, Tyler.
HBO bought the rights in September of 2008. After which the Discovery Channel said, "Oh yeah, we are gonna air it in 2009." So like originally Discovery Channel bought it and said, "No, yeah, we have no intention to air this."
It would be really interesting to see who owns the Discovery Channel.
Well,
Definitely Disney.
Because I don't know if Satan owns a bunch of like media conglomerates, but I feel like he does.
No.
Also, do you know Satan doesn't have a heart, or like he didn't have a heart for a while? He was just rolling on a pacemaker. So if a doctor or someone was to like check his pulse, he technically didn't have a pulse.
Yeah. So
that's when he was like somewhat running the country.
Discovery Channel's crazy. Discovery Channel's owned by itself. It's a company called Discovery Inc.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they're in the pockets of the American government.
So like they're a publicly traded.
I wonder what their reasoning was.
Yeah, they're a publicly traded company.
I will say that the beginning, like the intro of this documentary, like the first 15 minutes, maybe the first 10, was probably some of the most graphic material that I've seen on a feature film so far doing this podcast. That was as disturbing as the introduction to Cropsy, which had all of that footage of the insane asylum in New York, of just naked men and boys doing crazy fucking shit, covered in shit, and just really, really degrading stuff. I did not expect the documentary to just freight train its way in that introduction.
A lot of D&B. A lot of D&B.
I imagine Discovery, if they did air it, I don't know if they finally did or not, but there'd be a lot of censoring, obviously. Like, you can't show that kind of stuff on network TV, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
Nan was just watching a doc about whales, and now there's dicks on her TV. She's gonna be like, "What the hell?"
Whereas when HBO bought it, I mean, they could show because it's pay subscription based, right?
Yeah, man.
True.
Advertisements don't have the power that they do with like the Discovery would have to.
Right. Yeah.
I read a story actually this morning that kind of reminds me of this, of a woman in San Antonio, Texas, who was sitting on the side of the road in like a downtown urban area, waiting for her boyfriend to get off work. She was sitting next to her car having a smoke, and a cop car rolls up and accuses her of trafficking drugs. So they ask to search her car, and she says yes. So more officers come around to do so, and they don't find any drugs on the car or anywhere on her belongings. So they call in a female detective to come down to the scene and perform like an actual body search. And this female detective performs the search accordingly until like just below the torso area, and then she asks the woman to pull her pants down because she's going to do like a cavity search because she's seen things hidden up there before, air quotes. So this woman definitely resists at first and then complies because she's on the side of the fucking road, and that was a huge concern for her. And she's also being surrounded by like 5 officers plus this female detective doing the search. So she's kind of on edge, and she complies. So the female detective, first of all, basically gropes her in a way that cannot be deemed like a search technique, then proceeds to comment on her hygiene and let's just leave it at that.
Damn.
And finally pulls out this woman's tampon on the side of the road. This woman had informed them that this was going to be the case, that she's currently experiencing her menstruation. So that was what they were going to have to deal with. Did not stop this woman detective at all. So she just, on the side of the road, removes this woman's tampon, and then asks her to turn around because she's going to perform the rest of the cavity search, meaning like her anal cavity. That was stopped. The search never went any further than that, actually, because they just, I guess, called it quits. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. Maybe her boyfriend got off work finally and caught them in the act. But this woman later, like almost 10 years later, finally got a settlement from the state of, or the city of San Antonio for $200,000. And the woman who basically sexually assaulted her retired a year after the incident and never received any kind of official consequence. She's currently living off of an indexed pension, government paid by this very woman who she assaulted through her tax money.
And that's a heartwarming tale. Do you think any of those cops like sit around with their buddies and we're like, man, let me tell you about a story?
Oh, fuck yeah.
What the fuck?
Why do you think it keeps happening? Because they glorify it. They sit around, just like you said, and they're like, hey, this is a good one. I got a crazy one. And then everyone wants a crazy story.
And then we shot him. And then her boyfriend came and we shot him too. And then the ambulance came and we shot them. Yeah, we went a little far with the ambulance. You're like, what the fuck?
I mean, like,
yeah,
not really recently. I mean, there's definitely been attacks on emergency response tents down in the States for these riots right now. They've definitely shot riot control equipment at emergency medical staff.
Jesus Christ. Wild.
There's a serious affliction on the United States. It's like a fucking genetic trait now almost for them to be racist or at least xenophobic. I don't know. Maybe hookworm is back.
Hookworm? Or that crazy disease that it was in the South after the Civil War that like made... Is it hookworm? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That one. Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah. And like speaking of the protests in the States, the director Alex Gibney has been very vocal on Twitter during all this, and was a big supporter of the movement going on, and a very vocal non-supporter of the current government in the U.S., which is probably the cause of a lot of this mayhem that's going on too.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. It's crazy that like this was 2007. So like I was saying earlier that the U.S. is still have boots on the ground and like they're still involved in that country, and it's just like never-ending stories of fuckery of like with them guarding poppy fields. Like I've just heard wild stories of U.S. like commanders going in there and like, all right, you are part of this little mountainous region and you got to get these 3 tribes to talk to each other, but like you don't know anything historically about the region. All you know is like these 3 tribes are like warring tribes that hate each other, and you're there on like I forget what their tour duty is, but we'll say it's like 6 months. So you're there for 6 months. It takes you 3 months for the guys to just agree to be in the room together. And then like another 3 months for the guys to be like, well, if like Christian gets a quarter of the room, then like I need a quarter. And then like all this bickering and bullshit. And then a new, like you go back stateside and then a new guy takes over. And then those 3 warlords don't trust the new guy. So then you're back at square one. So like you're not going to get anything done. And it's just like, it's just a wild system. And it's a country that was like just run so different than a lot of other countries.
And
it's just like,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when Obama was in, he kind of pared down action at Guantanamo, if I'm correct.
I believe
moved to
and I think it's one of his I think one of his things was when he was getting elected that he was going to like shut it down. and then he got the keys to the castle and was like, "Well, wait a second, maybe we'll keep her open." Or maybe
it's a good sneaky little hideaway for people.
Yeah, man, it's so wild that they have it. Like, it's in Cuba, but it, like, I don't understand how that's kind of a U.S. place.
So basically,
I guess Cuba could just attack it.
When Cuba was friendly with the U.S., I believe they bought that land or leased that land for, like, I think it was 99 years for like a ridiculous price, like a ridiculously cheap price. And
yeah, that's how U.S. land deals work, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you were saying earlier, Mitch, reminds me of a conversation that we had like a long time ago. But when the U.S. and other powers started to get atomic weapons, it was a brief period where the U.S. was kind of the only country that it was known to have these weapons. And then the rest of the world kind of slowly caught up, and it was made known that they all have these in their back pockets. And the deals were always trying to be struck that we should disarm collectively, but everyone else do it first, and then the U.S. will follow. And a few countries did that, and the U.S. swooped in and fucking occupied the shit out of them. And now, when they approach countries to do deals with them militaristically or politically or economically even,
yeah, man,
they're all so wary. They're like, no fucking way. I saw what you did to that guy.
Yeah, dude.
Fuck you. There's no way of doing a deal with you. And I think that's how the world sees America now.
Oh, 100%.
It's becoming more and more transparent that that's the case. Like, because the political system in the States now is just so obviously aggressive and deceitful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like no one, like North Korea, like Kim Jong, whatever. I forget his
Kim Jong.
He's probably not a great guy, but like, there's no way that, like you said, he's gonna look and be like, what did you guys do to Gaddafi? Can I talk to him real quick? Let's talk to him to see how that. Oh yeah, that's right. I know what happened to him. Or like any other leader, whether like you guys are just gonna let me walk, you're gonna let me go free. Like, there's no fucking way.
Yeah, like you're going to manufacture the conditions necessary for my seizure, and then you're going to sweep the rug right out from under me.
Yeah, and then globally be like, well, we didn't kill him, but like we gave the people the bullets and the guns and the instructions.
This is an internal problem.
Yeah. Oh, but now we got North Korea, so it's the 52nd state.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
So I will fact check myself here, and so they did sign a lease, but they originally seized Guantanamo Bay during the Spanish-American War in 1898.
Yeah,
and then in 1903 they signed a lease, a lease granting them permission to create a naval base there, which it's not really a naval base anymore.
So Fidel probably didn't take it over because it's like, there's way too many guns over there. So let's just hang out on this island.
Yeah. So
man, in a relatively like insanely short amount of time, when the Spanish first invaded Cuba, all the native people died. Like, there's no actual like native people of Cuba left. Like, they all, like, it was within like 50 years or something, because it's such a small island and they all got disease. And then the Spanish kind of just took it over. They're like, that's fucked, man.
Yeah, that's classic human, though.
It's just a whole race of people. Like, all right, man, we got a lot of room here now. Cool.
Like that's exactly what happened when actual native Cubans, well, not even really, but those who became native Cubans arrived on the island and killed all the huge fauna, like giant sloths. And yeah, that's like the main one, but that's like classic humans. So those humans were really good at killing giant sloths, and then 15,000 years later, or not even, less than 10,000 years later, we're just the same kind of human we're just killing the giant sloths that are humans to us now.
Get better technology.
Yeah, those humans still exist, and they're still super dominant. Yeah. They'll kill you just like they killed that sloth.
Man, the thing about in the doc when they were using the dogs, it's and how they were like how that culture is so shocked and so afraid of dogs. Yeah, like it reminded me of when like the Spanish. Like I know I've told Christian this story, Tyler, of when the Spanish first came over to South America. South Americans knew like their reference for dogs were like Chihuahuas and like shit like that. So they didn't know like what a fucking giant German Shepherd was, or like I forget. I think the Spanish had these giant mastiffs. So they just showed up with these dogs that like the Spanish and that were like eating people, and the natives just freaked the fuck out. So I was like, oh man, it had to be someone like that think it's just like, holy shit, this is such a crazy thing. And then for the Americans to justify it, but we're like, man, we had them on leashes. Like, fuck, chill out.
And they said they were supposed to have muzzles on it, but when they realized the muzzles weren't working, like it wasn't scaring them enough, they would take the muzzles off because that's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was under their own initiative to do better at their job.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to stop painting the dog's nails. These guys can see the nail paint on the dog's fingernail. Doesn't like it. Not giving us the information.
So
got to make them meaner.
I've just been reading some stuff about Guantanamo, and it actually has a pretty crazy story. So
really?
Yeah, when they signed the initial lease, take a guess on what it cost them per year.
Per year? When was this? Like 1900?
Well, in 1934, a new Cuban-American Treaty of Relations, they reaffirmed the lease. So this lease was signed in 1934.
Okay. Yearly, $100.
It went from $2,000 in U.S. gold coins to $4,085. And then basically when the revolution happened and Castro took over.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was up with that?
Well, they signed all the checks to the Treasurer General of the Republic, which didn't exist after Castro took over. And literally they only cashed one check, and then the rest just got shoved into a desk. So they never cashed those checks.
What?
Yeah. And then, so they kept running it obviously after Fidel took over. And in the 90s, basically was used as a housing place for HIV positive refugees.
Oh man, so it's always been a place of hardship, like love and just affection. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, it's
yo, don't go to that island.
There's always been a really strong gay community there too, I guess.
In Cuba?
Well, but it was refugees from like Haiti, Dominican, like everything like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 50s and shit, like the 30s, pre-revolution, like Cuba was like the place to go. Like, cause you could go, like the mob pretty much ran Cuba, and you go do like crazy shit there, and you're not in the U.S. So there's like crazy stories. Oh man, there's this Cuban dude who had like a legendarily large penis, and oh fuck, like all the famous chicks from like the 40s and 50s, like fuck this dude, but. Yeah, everyone would just go to Cuba to do crazy shit. And then the revolution happened and shut that down. Did not happen.
Yeah, and then, just recently opened back up to the U.S.
Oh. Fuck, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's still, like, classified as, what's it classified now as? Like a naval base or detention center?
I guess...
not concentration camp.
Probably. It's probably still considered
concentrated.
Probably still considered a naval base. So, the refugees who represented discipline or security problems were held on the site that later became Camp X-Ray. So basically, Camp X-Ray is the part where they keep all the prisoners.
Man, well, you got to have a good rebranding when Guantanamo, like we said earlier, it was like, oh yeah, that's that bad place. The Camp X-Ray. It's like, oh man, is that where they like train Navy SEALs? I'm like, no, they don't do that there.
Yeah.
Well, they had talked about Camp X-Ray in this doc, but it seemed to be kind of abandoned. Like they don't use it anymore.
That was a fucking weird tour. Like, hey, if you take this picture right here, like, dude, imagine going to fucking Buchenwald and being like, hey, you know the famous picture of when the Allies first came in here and liberated this camp? You could stand right here and take that picture. Or that famous picture of that starving baby in those pajamas? It was right here. I'm like, what the fuck?
And there was a gift shop too. That was a sweet ass T-shirt that I saw. It said something about the standard operating procedures of Guantanamo Bay T-shirt.
That's cool.
What a cool tee! I want that.
What do you think the keychains are? Like dudes in little orange jumpsuits, or like
little baseball bats with nails driven through them.
I don't know, man. If you had a little caricature in an orange jumpsuit with that hood, that's looking KKK-ish. So,
oh, it could be one of those dolls that's held together by an elastic string.
Yeah, those little voodoo dolls.
Bottom, and he'll go limp.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Look, after 3 hours of standing up.
Yeah, that was
crazy too. When Satan personally signed that document, and was like, "I stand up for 8 hours. What's the big deal if these guys stand up for 4? Like, why only 4?" Like,
that's such an old man tactic too. How he answered that question, or at least didn't answer. Mm-hmm. He didn't answer. How he just simply responded.
It was in jest.
He didn't give over any information that was valuable.
Yeah,
and that's a fucking sneaky, shitty old man thing to do.
Man, that guy's Satan. If he ever writes a memoir, that is going to be like some Mein Kampf type shit, where you're like, this guy was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
If he's just on his deathbed and like, fuck it, I'll tell you what I did. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, oh my god. Yeah.
Like, things have changed in such a short time that's what's happening right now on Twitter, like every day.
Yeah.
Just, there's no real hiding that shit anymore. I mean, like, there is and there isn't, but
it's gotten a lot better at it. And then it's just like, well, we control all the information and we know all the information that's being sent. So,
yeah.
So what if we do this? Like, who cares? Like, dude, this is like, I guess they were probably using drones, but they've just upped drone strikes and all that technology has gotten so much better. So then that in a weird way, like, takes you personally out of it, where you're like, well, man, I wasn't flying the plane. Like, I wasn't in the cockpit dropping the bombs. So, like, fuck it. It just takes an element away from it of, like, who do you, like, charge the drone? I don't know. He did it. I didn't do it.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective too, though, because they said that like these orders were given pretty much right from the top.
Well, but yeah, that's how the military works. Yeah, you don't improvise in the military. Yeah, you know, they're not like, all right, so Private Christian and Private Tyler, you guys can either do this or you can do this, or like you want to go maybe go die and like get shot at. I'm like, no, I'm gonna go do this. Like, it's like. You're fucking doing this, and you're not, and they're trained to like, you don't question. So that's what, like I said earlier, with the rules of war, it's kind of funny that they're like, well, why didn't you have like morals in that situation? And like, is there anyone that would be like, okay, guys, I want to go home now. Like, can I go home? I want to go home.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, 100%. But if those, like, they would have been probably prosecuted in their own way of just, or some shit would have been made up, but they're like, you're too weak, like you didn't want to torture this guy, or you didn't want to do this,
and like you'd be slandered. You would never be able to have anyone believe you.
Yeah, dude, like Bradley Manning, right? Like Obama, exactly. before he was getting elected, is like, I will protect whistleblowers. Like, I want to know if the U.S. military is doing wrongdoing, which like. How he fucking played that like a fiddle, because it was coming in after all this shit. He's like, I'm gonna make sure this doesn't happen, and if it does, we'll know. And then he gets in and it was like, well, that's another one. Like, we're keeping Guantanamo open and we're taking that one off there.
So,
and fuck this dude, put him in jail.
When I was reading about Guantanamo there, so he did put forth legislation to close it, but Congress has basically dragged its heels and is not letting it happen. So it was.
Yeah, I guess he didn't put Bradley Manning in prison, but he pardoned him, I think. But still, that whole thing is like, that's still crazy that he was like, no, we'll protect you, and then like, I'll just get you out of jail. So, all right, dude. Yeah, that's fucked, man. Like, just politics is crazy.
Well, and it's insane to kind of see what goes on where, we obviously don't have any military background. We don't have any war experience. No. So as people looking from the outside, we're looking at this and be like, holy fuck, like what leads a group of people or a country to think that this action is okay?
Yeah.
What does it get us?
Yeah, man, I have a friend that's in the military, and I haven't talked to him in a while, but I remember talking to him after there was some like drone strike that was on definitely innocent people, but I think it might have been when the footage came out of the drone where they were like, oh, don't bring kids to a gunfight. And I was talking to him about it. I was like, dude, that shit's crazy. They're just lighting up innocent people. And he's like, they're not all innocent. And I was like, okay, I don't want to talk about this anymore, because like, you're saying that like we can kill a baby or two if we take out a terrorist. Like, there's an equation there. Like, we're doing math now, and this is human life that we're doing math with. Like, this seems fucked. They're like, you're cool with that? Like, okay. So I guess there's just, I don't know, man. Maybe there's like a military class where like you have like ethics, but it's like, we teach you, like, we unteach you ethics and morals. You just get a gun and just shoot shit. Fuck it. Who cares? We'll figure it out later.
Right.
Cause like, yeah, man, I like, you want that gold star? This is what you have to do. And like, don't fucking question anything.
It definitely would give you a sense of power, which inherently kind of runs parallel to a sense of authority as well.
Yeah, everyone like wants that shit, man. Like, you taste of it. You're like, oh wait, we can do this. Like, oh fuck yeah,
and like classic childhood trauma, just like we saw in Tickled with D'Amato. There, he was exerting power when he finally had achieved some over people to avenge himself. Later, like earlier in life. And I think these people, like the military, of course, sort of promote not dealing with those problems, but allowing yourself to be in a situation where you can vent in that respect. And I think like the sense of like the feeling or the desire of power is so basic with people that it's just, they go hand in hand. The military wants those kinds of damaged people because they're the ones most willing to use power if given it. And that kind of power, when you're protected by a system or an office, like I think they call it a rational legal authority, one of a few kinds, like traditional authority, which would run down a line of hierarchies, essentially. Like, my father had power, so I have power too. Once it's handed down, that's called traditional. And then there's charismatic power, which is what I guess someone like
Hitler,
Elon Musk. Oh, yeah, Hitler. Yeah, it started off like that. Yeah, it definitely has charismatic power. But he was inventing.
It's his middle name.
Yeah. So, and he was inventing a system or a manifold that would produce rational legal authority that he can give to people that are just like guards at Guantanamo or boots on the ground in Afghanistan. I guess that's the same thing. But these senses of authority over people are given to low-level untrained individuals, and typical, I was going to say typical American attitude, but it's larger than that, I think, is to do your best, work as hard as you can, and you'll be rewarded adequately.
Do you think the situation would be the same if, like, the people in the military had, like, an average, like, above average IQ, like a private was like could go to like fucking MIT or some shit, where like they were all that smart? I don't know if there's like a lot of like blindly following.
More educational requirements to be in the military?
Yeah, I guess. Or if they just have like maybe a better like moral compass, or like know kind of globally about the world, that they'd be like, wait a sec, we can't do this.
I'd be afraid of the educational system being corrupt, because I feel like the reason the military runs like this is because it's internally rotten. And if that were to be regulated by education would begin to rot.
Well, they pay for your education, right? So like, hey, you want to go get some PTSD and maybe get a leg blown off? Well, it'll pay for your arts degree.
Yeah, you can read any book you want.
Yeah, you want to become an American citizen? Here's a gun and go kill some people for us, and like we'll see what we can do for you.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That's a weird little feature of their.
It's also crazy. We were talking earlier how the U.S. was like, we do not get involved in global politics. Like, we're doing our own thing over here. And how, excuse me, their military, like, they were always weary to have a standing military, because it was like, man, this could go down like some Europe shit where, like, the military just turns on us. So, like, we kind of should keep our military small and very white. And then after some world wars where, like, massive people get killed, they're like, all right, let's put minorities and dumb people in there, because we don't really care about them. So, and then it's like a good thing of like, oh, the military's integrated, and like we'll let anyone die. So it's just kind of crazy that it was perceived as this like white, like pride thing, and then it was like, well, actually, everyone, like, this fucks you up. So, yeah, get in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're gonna save our white boys. They're like, holy fuck, like that's crazy.
They just need numbers. Yeah.
Like, not even save our white boys. Like, we're just gonna save our rich kids, because like, who cares about these poor people? We got all kinds of them.
That does seem to be where this all comes from. Honestly, is like the desire for money.
Yeah, man. Well, even like during the Civil War, like the North had like didn't even really send like Ivy League dudes, or like there was guys that. I forget what the system was called, but like you could pay someone. Like if I had enough money, I'd be like, hey, Christian, I'm going to pay you to like do my military service, and like you do my military service. But if you're poor, like you don't fucking have that option. So like it's always been there, man. Always been there.
So this was very different stylistically, and obviously the subject matter than the first Alex Gibney doc we watched about Hunter S. Thompson. Whereas you watch documentaries from the same director and you can kind of tell, right? But I feel like this was done very, very differently. Obviously, it's a huge shift in subject matter, but yeah. Otherwise, I think this is one of the ones that we put into the pile of kind of important documentaries for people to watch, where, just like the ones that have dealt with racism, we've done a bunch that are great docs, but not necessarily important to watch, for lack of better words.
Yeah, this is an important one. Like Four Little Girls is an important one, and
Home of the Brave.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it was a crazy fucking story, man. And I'm sure this is not the only. Like, what did they had like 98,000 people at one time. So, how many cab drivers do you think they took, or like bakers, or like?
That's right. Well,
it's just like some Nazi shit, man. Like they went in and like,
as of
2000, you're not on our team.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
as of 2007, when they filmed the documentary, it was 83,000 people that died. So it's 2020 right now. So add another 13 years, and
we lost Christian.
Yeah, he was frozen on the screen there for a little bit.
Yeah. I think he might come back. Yeah, you think it's reached triple digits? Like, you think it's 100,000?
I wouldn't be surprised after another 13 years.
Yeah. Dude, imagine in that 13 years, it's like 1 million or something, where it's just like skyrocketed. You're like, holy shit. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I want to hope that after all this came out, that the U.S. kind of had like a gut check. It's like, well, we gotta tone this down a little bit, but who knows?
Maybe let's go over our foreign policy chapter and maybe fix it, because it's clearly fucked up. Yeah, it would be interesting. And then it would have been pretty wild to be in those rooms, like when those generals and stuff were talking, like that footage of when the generals are sitting in their office and they're just talking about how the torture and shit isn't really that bad, or like what they can and cannot do, and kind of talking about the rules. And like, I mean, it doesn't say you can't do this, but like it's just a bunch of good old boys like shooting the shit, man. Like, how do we legally torture people?
Right.
Yeah, like, oof. Like that's. It seemed like all those guys were military dudes in that room. Like, there's no way there was a secretary or like a civilian or something that they were like, wait, what did you just say?
Right.
Like,
and we have Christian back.
Oh, he's back. Hey,
cool. Fucking internet. God damn it.
We were just talking about how crazy it would be to be in that room, and the one footage when the one general was talking with his buddies in the office about like the legalities of torture and like what they've done and what they can't do. Of just how creepy that, and how probably all those dudes were in the military. Like, there wasn't a secretary in the corner like taking notes, being like, wait, what? Like, oh shit, we're talking about human life here. Like, all those guys are military, and just, if anyone's out of line, they probably just looked at him and been like, September 11th. He's like, oh yeah, my head's back in the game, boys. I'm good. Okay.
It was a pretty fucking quiet room. That guy was speaking alone.
Yeah. All secretly, they're all like, man, this guy's fucked.
I think they'd probably be all secretly feeling like, why are we doing this? Like, we all want to stop doing this, but nobody's willing to speak up.
Yeah. So we'll just keep killing innocent people. Seems like the best thing.
I mean, like, that's like state-sponsored violence at that point. Like, they want to just be a part of the state experience. They want to do their part.
This might be a controversial statement, but I'm going to say it. War, it sucks. It's not fun.
Yeah.
What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Okay, so
except nation building.
Shall we see if we get a more uplifting topic next week?
Sure, it's probably going to be about someone dying.
Well,
I got odds on it that someone. I got $1 bet that someone dies in this documentary. Maybe even $1.50 that it's a kid that dies. Because that's a
my hopes are currently chained to the top of grated ceiling.
That's our like stars. Like, how many chained men is it? Like, it's a 5 chained men movie.
I feel like this is one of those
did I win? Is
hokey.
Dead?
No, I feel like this is one of those hokey kind of. It says declining by degrees, higher education at risk.
Oh man, pick a new one.
Yeah.
Everyone knows global warming is not real.
I don't think it's about global warming.
Oh, okay.
I
think we should really watch this documentary based on that statement alone.
Well, that global warming's not real.
Oh my god! The fact that you said that was fine.
Man, I had to. He was looking at me. I don't really mean it, but I just felt pressured. It was like a military man. This guy told me what to do, so I was just going with it. Oh,
Running with Arnold.
That's a good one.
So
we got that one on. We got that one on DVD.
Yeah, there's no death.
No one died. No one died.
We get a little bit of a break from that.
Yeah, no one dies. It's just he's kind of an asshole. Kind of an asshole. This is Canadian chick that did the movie.
Oh yeah, more Canadian content. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, a Canadian lady. Sorry, I said chick around my mom and she got offended.
Oh man, lady's just as stupid.
Really?
Okay, lady, lady's like a technical term for a landowner in England, but it's from like 200 years ago.
Well, maybe
a Canadian woman.
Maybe she got a plot of land. I don't know. Yeah,
she's a Canadian woman. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. So
that's cool. That's a cool doc.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, what was the name?
Running with Arnold.
We have it on DVD.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Should we get together to watch this one?
We are going to get together next week.
Sick.
Superlative.
So yeah, Running with Arnold came out in 2006, and it's essentially what it sounds. It's a documentary on Arnold Schwarzenegger's gubernatorial campaign in California.
Oh man, I thought it was about him just going out for a run. I thought this lady just ran with him.
This is directed by Dan Cox. I don't think that's...
Okay, sorry. Well, there's a lady interviewer in it that is, yeah.
Canadian?
Because I'm pretty sure, unless I watched a different documentary. We can edit this, right? This isn't the last. Take back that statement I said about the Canadian lady. No, man, I swear there's a Canadian chick because she's like, oh, I'm just this nice Canadian lady and everyone will talk to me. And then Arnold just doesn't really, from what I remember, I have to preference that.
Yeah.
He kind of just brushes her off and doesn't really get an interview. And then her whole thing was like, I'm just a nice Canadian lady. Maybe it was a guy. I don't know, man. Fuck. Thought it was a lady though.
Yeah. I don't know. There's no Alec Baldwin's the narrator.
Okay, then this even makes my story even shittier because I thought the lady was.
Yeah. So
IMDb.
He's
one of the famous Baldwins, right?
IMDb only gives it a 4.4 out of 10. So.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Okay. 4.5 hanging. 4 men and a child chained up. That's the half. See, that's
just the torso.
No, I like kids more. Kids, not as fucked up. Okay, why are we cutting people? We just torture.
No, we're not cutting them. We're just beating their legs off.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So
it's like that rap song. How many licks to the center? Like how many beats to the legs fall off?
Oh God! Some new dance move. People just don't know.
And then a military advisor comes in and he's like, 1,200 hits to the thigh. Fall right off.
So it's officially 26 strikes with the knee to your thigh.
Yeah. So
ankle falls off and 30 hits.
The biggest critique of this movie is basically it's a hatchet job. It's not so much a documentary. It's just a soapbox for this person, the guy who made it, his views. Basically,
a Michael Moore documentary.
Yeah. So this guy who reviewed it said this was clearly a hatchet job, and there must be redeeming qualities to a man who was elected twice. So to call this a documentary when no pro-Arnold people could be found would be unfair.
Yeah.
Still a piece of history, but hardly fair. So. We'll
cool. Well, okay. Why should we watch it and love it? We're just like, man, this is awesome. I think Arnold did do some pretty cool shit. I know one of the sneaky things that he did is one of the last days or the last days that he was in office, he signed the legalization for marijuana. So that's
obviously
cool.
Like most people, he's done some shitty things. Obviously, the affair with the nanny and all that stuff.
Or maybe possibly his dad being a Nazi or being affiliated with Nazis.
Yeah, but I mean that's not anything he did. That was his father's choice.
That's true.
I'm sure there's some people. I'm sure there's some people who had parents affiliated with the Nazis that are turned out to be decent people. But
yeah, I have a friend. He's kind of an asshole, and his grandpa or something was deep with them.
Yeah.
He's
But
a cool guy.
yeah, so next week we will run with Arnold, and we'll finally be off this Skype bullshit.
Cool.
Keeping our distance at the table. So perfect.
We can get in the chopper.
Get in the chopper. Okay.
We all had like sweet Arnold lines to end this. That'd be cool.
We will
Have you seen this child?
We will come up with some Arnold catchphrases for next week.
Some Arnisms.
Arnisms for sure. Awesome. Okay, thanks guys. I will actually see you next week. Peace.
I'll be back.
Oh, you were waiting on that one, you fucker. Bow, bow, pew, 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 pew. Yeah. Oh shit! Yo, that documentary that Haley and I watched, it was about this dude who served it. It doesn't